Howdy y'all, this is Red Wolf. I was having a conversation with a fella recently about shit hit the fan and survival hunting. And as such conversations are wont to do, weapons came around to be the topic of choice. Now, I have my opinions on it. Naturally, he had his. And so we started mining YouTube and the internet for collaborative evidence. And one of the things that came up was this fella shooting a squirrel a dozen times or more with a regular old blowgun, kind of as we all know them. Now that confused me, because to see a tool with such a wide range of use over such a long period, it didn't make any sense for me for the inefficacy of the tool as presented in the video. So this is going to be my attempt at a video response to give a little bit wider perspective on it. Now, to help me with that today, I've got two different blowguns. The first one is going to be a cold steel big bore blowgun. This is going to be the 5-foot takedown model. I got this shortly after we started having the conversation and all that, because I was curious. I was looking to make me one, and I realized I could pick one of these up for fairly cheap through the business, and it saved me a lot of trial and error. And when doing something like this, I really like to eliminate trial and error, and if I can get a finished product without me having to go through a learning curve, I try to get in a finished product and not have to go through the learning curve and make it my own. Now the other one I've got is sort of a standard 40 caliber blowgun, like you're all familiar with. It's got the little sight on it. Comes with a little quiver. It's got the mouthpiece. After doing a lot of research, it turns out that both of these, for the type of testing I'm going to be doing, are within historical spec. I was researching some of my ancestry and some of the living history, stuff like that. And particularly when trying to research ways that blowguns can be effective without using poison, which most people just assume they do, because to be honest, the modern ones tend to be crap. I found out that the Cherokee very famously used to use blowguns. There are incidences, documented incidences, of them being used for warfare in place of a bow, and also for taking down deer, provided you do your job with shot placement. It's very similar to the argument of the .22 long rifle being the ultimate survival tool. This one is a 40 cal, as mentioned. This one, the cold steel, and 62.5 caliber. These seem to be within spec. Cherokees seem to like something between somewhere around half an inch up to around 3/4 of an inch. So I figure these would do a pretty good job of it. More importantly, when talking about blowguns more than the bore, is talking about the ammunition. This is the style that is regularly used by the 40 cal blowguns. It's what we're all familiar with. And honestly, back when I was 12, 13 years old, the inefficacy of these darts is what really left a bad taste for blowguns in my mouth. It's a little 16 gauge pointed wire, little takeoff cap on the end. They're flimsy, they're not very effective. Ultimately, they're really cheap to produce. They're great for practice, but we'll get into some of that a little bit better. Now you can see the cold steel one has a lot more in common with a nail than with a piece of wire, especially when you include the broadhead on the end. They do a pretty good job of piercing harder targets. Personally, I prefer these for practice, particularly when shooting soft targets like cardboard stacks or something like that, because they'll, being steel, they have a little bit more toughness than the bamboo. It's the bamboo that really intrigued me. My understanding is the Cherokee made their darts from about 8 inches to about 22 inches in length out of ironwood that they would carve down into about this size. These are bamboo, and they make a really good medium, stuff like that. They're right in the middle range of what the Cherokee hunting darts were, and we're going to do some good testing on those. And lastly are these little polymers. Now, I hadn't heard of these or really seen them until I got them in, but they're based on a South American, I believe, design, where they shoot clay balls as stun darts, and so far I've been pretty impressed with them. Okay, so on to my testing. I'm going to be using this full bottle of water and a couple of these Coke cans, some of these closed, some of them open, and I'm going to try and give a side-by-side test of normal 40 caliber blowgun darts, what we all think of as a blowgun, in comparison to a wider range of ammunition types that just give a comparative example of how much more effective other ammo types would be, and to give a little bit of a sense of how effective a blowgun could be if used properly. All of my testing will be done from probably about 10-12 feet. I don't want to get too close and skew the test from it being just as powerful as it's going to get, but I don't want to be so far away that I'm constantly missing, or I have to take 3, 4, 5 shots to penetrate these closed cans. This is going to be a non-graphic test to simulate bleed out with a 40 caliber standard dart, and due to the thickness of the thing, I'm going to be using one of the cold steel steel broadheads. I think it's pretty obvious here how much more effective the cold steel was in getting this through. Turn that a little bit so you can see how this is just barely even dribbling. You know, when it comes to talking game, a lot of times bleed out is what you're talking about. I think that experiment stands pretty well for itself. Alright, this test will be with the pressurized cans versus the 40 cal. Alright, this will be shot number 2. Alright, well. I was planning on using a second can for the cold steel with the bamboo, but it doesn't look like it's going to be really necessary. Try and get myself back in camera frame. Alright. Well guys, I reckon that there pretty well sums it up. Y'all saw the first one of these bounce off on top of everything. Now, this kind of leads us in an interesting thing about the hunting, is that in addition to puncturing, obviously, and leaving a little bit reasonable of a hole on that side, one of the other attributes of blowgun darts when you use the big ones is it keeps game from getting away. My understanding is, you know, on rabbits, stuff like that, these will help keep them from getting all the way down back in the warrens. With squirrels and stuff like that, particularly squirrels, which it'll kill a lot quicker. This will keep them from getting all the way through the trees. They'll get hung up, stuff like that, make them a lot easier to recover. And the little bit I've heard on blowgun fishing, this also helps, you know, real shallow water stuff like this can help pin them to the ground. Bed, I suppose. So, Now we're going to shoot some cans with the top pop to take the pressure off. And the reasoning is I want to see how the stun darts, as they call them, how much power they impart on the target. Done properly, these should work better for birds and small game a lot of times, because you traditionally use the bludgeoning power instead of piercing power to kill them in the first place. And but with the pressure all the way in the cans, these do not impart enough energy to pop them because they don't pierce the side anywhere. So we're going to do a couple tests on popped cans to just get a comparison and see what these can do. I've never done this, I have no idea, and I am dreadfully curious. Okay, so this is going to be first with the 40. So far, I am 2 for 2. Alright, now just to get a little bit cocky, I'm going to aim for the L this time. This is going to be the cold steel dart, the cold steel bamboo. It's going to be the big bad cold steel broadhead. Alright, so this is going to be the cold steel stunner. Well, hope y'all enjoyed that. No, I did. I think the results speak pretty well for themselves. I'm not going to try and wax poetic on them. I will say that this is definitely going to be going in my scout kit from here on out. Really impressed with it. We recently changed our website to redwolfknives.com. You can find both this and the 40 cal on there. I'm going to be doing some videos real soon on making some homemade darts for these, and I'm going to see if I can get that 40 cal to, get the efficacy of it a little bit further up there. But be sure and like, subscribe, comment on it, let us know what you think. You got anything you want to see, let me know. Until next time, this is Red Wolf signing off. Y'all keep up the good fight.